She slept with my fiancé, then had the audacity to wear white to my wedding rehearsal, and my dad still asked me to invite her. When I refused, he called me cruel and said if Jillian wasn't welcome, he wouldn't come either. So I crossed both their names off the guest list and replaced them with the people who actually showed up for me when I shattered. I walked down the aisle with my best friend's dad, while my real father sent a cold silence in his place. If you're enjoying this, please subscribe and share. Your support keeps the stories coming. Logan never asked me to choose. He held my hand while I made the decision that would change everything. You don't owe anyone your peace, he said that night, 3 weeks before the wedding. After I'd read Dad's message out loud and sat shaking with anger. I had spent my whole life trying to be the glue in a family that never cared to be held together. But this was the line Jillian and I hadn't spoken since the week she and my ex, Blake, got exposed in the most humiliating way possible, via a friend's accidental Instagram live. I hadn't even known they were close. Blake and I had been engaged for 8 months. I found out about them 2 weeks after I sent out our save the dates. Jillian never denied it. She even laughed, saying, maybe if you kept him interested, I wouldn't have had to. My mom had been gone for years, and Dad? He tried to play Switzerland. She's still your sister, he said like that meant something. Like blood was redemption. I spent the next year rebuilding my life from ashes. Not publicly. Quietly. While people whispered, judged, speculated. I took a second job, cancelled our venue, found therapy. And eventually, when I wasn't even looking, met Logan, kind, steady, patient. He helped me stop measuring myself by how much I could endure. When we got engaged, I made one promise: no compromises with people who never protected me. And that included my own father. Still, a part of me hoped he'd show up anyway. I kept looking toward the back during the ceremony, half expecting him to be standing there. But he never came. What did come, later that night during the reception, was a message, not from my father. From my cousin Emily. Well, I guess the lake house is yours now. Hope it's worth burning down the family. My stomach turned. The lake house at Placid had been in our family for 3 generations. We'd all grown up swimming in that lake, learning how to steer the old boat, climbing the pine trees that shaded the dock. Everyone assumed it would go to Emily, Dad's golden niece. The responsible one, the family future. Even she did, but in the middle of our reception, Dad's lawyer had shown up. No warning. He approached me and Logan quietly, holding a thick envelope and wearing an expression I couldn't place. This is from your father, he said. He wanted you to have it today. I opened the envelope at our sweetheart table while Logan watched. Inside, the deed to the lake house. Signed, notarized. Transferred to me. There was also a handwritten note. Just 4 words: family is who stays. I felt the floor shift under my heels. This wasn't peace. It was a challenge. Emily saw it as betrayal. The rest of the family? Some looked stunned. Others, angry. Whispers curled through the tables like smoke. The mood changed. I knew then this wasn't over, and I was right, because 5 days later, Logan and I were on our honeymoon in Vancouver when my dad called for the first time since the ultimatum, not to apologize, but to confess something that would blow open everything I thought I knew about my own life. I answered the call thinking maybe, he was ready to make peace. Instead, he opened with a sentence I'll never forget: I never wanted a second child. You were a mistake. Logan looked up from our hotel balcony, saw my face drain of color, and walked over slowly. Like he knew I was about to fall. I blame you for your mother's death, my father added. Like he was reading off a grocery list. I didn't say anything. Didn't hang up either. Just held the phone, paralyzed, as he kept talking, words slicing through me like glass. You want to know why I've always been closer to Jillian? He said. Because she didn't ruin my life. He told me my mother had begged for a second child. That she'd had complications early in the pregnancy but insisted on carrying me anyway. That she died 12 hours after I was born, and he never forgave me for it. You took her. And then you expected me to love you for it? I finally managed to whisper, I was a baby. He didn't respond to that. Just sighed and said, you're not my responsibility anymore. Enjoy the house. And then he hung up. I didn't cry right away. Logan wrapped his arms around me and just held me while I stared out over the skyline. I think my brain refused to process it at first. It felt fictional. Like he'd read a script meant to hurt me in the deepest, most permanent way, but it was real. And it explained everything. Why I always felt like I had to earn his love, why Jillian could do no wrong, even when she slept with my fiancé, why I'd bend and break and bleed just to be seen, and still come up short. I spent the next 2 days numb. I couldn't even enjoy the honeymoon. Logan offered to fly us home early. I said no. I want to finish this as the woman I am now, I told him. Not the little girl who spent her life chasing crumbs. When we returned home, I did something I never thought I'd have the courage to do. I printed it all, the screenshots, the messages, the proof. Jillian had spent years trying to ruin me, and I'd buried it, trying to be the bigger person. She'd gone behind my back in every relationship I'd had. Made fake accounts to harass girls I mentored through a youth program. She'd even written anonymous comments on my engagement photos with Logan, calling me pathetic and attention-starved. She wasn't just careless. She was intentional, and when I showed it all to my father, through a letter I mailed directly to his house, I ended it with one line: "The daughter you hated was the only one who stayed when you had your stroke. The one you loved didn't even show up." Because that was the truth. I fed him, bathed him, changed his medical dressings. Jillian texted twice and never visited. But still, he gave her all the affection, the praise, the lake house expectations, but now? It was mine. Logan and I moved in 3 weeks later. The house was old, but solid. Like me. The dock needed work. So did I. But I wasn't scared of the labor anymore. Monica came over and helped me repaint the porch. Logan built us a fire pit. Our friends started visiting, and little by little, laughter replaced the silence I grew up in, and then one day, a letter came. No name on the return address. Just his handwriting on the front. I stood in the kitchen holding it like a ticking bomb. Logan was out getting groceries. I was alone. And shaking. I opened it. Inside was a single page. My father's handwriting, messy, slanted, like it had been written in one sitting with no edits. "I don't expect forgiveness. But I've lived my entire life trying not to grieve, and it made me cruel. You were innocent. She wanted you. I see that now. I see her in you. You stayed. You cared. And I didn't. I'm sorry I failed you. I loved her so much I couldn't see you standing right in front of me. No manipulation. No excuses, just pain, but also honesty. I folded the letter. Put it in the drawer under my mother's photo. Then I stepped outside onto the deck. That night, I didn't cry for him. I cried for her. For the woman who died giving me life. For the version of me who'd spent decades trying to earn what was never mine to begin with, and when I stood up from that porch swing, I felt lighter than I ever had before. But what I didn't know yet, what I couldn't have guessed, was that life was about to shift again. Because I wasn't just building a new family. I was carrying one. I carried the news like a secret treasure, feeling it shift inside me with every heartbeat. Logan held my hand in the hospital waiting room, steady as ever, when the doctor confirmed it. Our child. Our future. The lake house had never felt more alive than in those moments, sunlight spilling across the wooden floors. Shadows dancing on the walls, laughter echoing through the halls where I'd once felt alone. Now, it was home in every sense, but even as hope blossomed, the echoes of my past whispered from every corner. Jillian's social media had gone dark, her silence a heavy thud in the background of my new life. I hadn't reached out, and she hadn't tried. Dad's apology letter remained folded in my drawer, an unfinished chapter. One afternoon, as Logan fixed the old boat's engine on the dock, I sat with a journal in my lap, writing down everything I'd learned, the betrayals, the heartbreak, the unexpected blessings. A knock on the door startled me. Standing there was Emily, cousin and longtime rival, eyes softer than I remembered, holding a bottle of wine. "I wanted to say congratulations," she said quietly. "And I'm sorry for how things went down. I didn't expect the lake house to go to you. But maybe it was time for change." I invited her in. And for the first time, we talked, not as competitors, but as family trying to find peace. That night, after everyone had left, Logan and I sat by the fire pit, flames crackling beneath the stars. I looked at him and whispered, "I'm ready to let go. Of anger. Of fear. Of the past." He smiled, kissed my forehead. "I'm proud of you." In that moment, I realized family wasn't blood or drama. It was choice. It was love. It was building something new on the broken pieces. Months later, as I stood on the porch of the lake house, feeling the gentle kick of our baby, I thought about the future. No longer haunted by shadows. No longer chasing approval, just surrounded by those who truly loved me. I was no longer the girl who lost her father's love. I was the woman who found herself, and this was just the beginning.